I'm not a religious person, you know,
Okay.
that's very common nowadays, but could you see, based off of biblical text, that technology as it is could be what they were alluding to when they bring up the Antichrist? In the way that they create this artificial form of connection. I mean, humans as we are, we already have a spiritual connection, but
course, yeah.
technology allows for us to have this in between,
Yeah.
which makes us feel as if we have a connection, but
Yeah.
actually we're more disconnected than ever.
Okay, you're going to the meat of the matter here, like right to the meat, right? And I love it. And I love it because that's why I'm here, actually. That's part of why I'm here. I'm not a coder. I used to be in the biology sciences, and I've struggled with religion a lot myself. I was raised with religion, and I deprogrammed myself and came back to it. So this is why I'm here sociologically, to study this and to see what the religiosity of this is here. And there's definitely a devotion. I wouldn't say worship. That's a loaded word, right? But to technology. And what is technology? Technology is the set of tools that we use, that we externalize from our minds to the outside world. Just like our arms, your right arm, or if you're a lefty, your left arm is, your ultimate tool.
Yeah.
The tool set we have now, going from fire, which was the original tool, right, the Promethean narrative, to now we have, radio, mass media, television, internet, all in 150 years, industrialization. We're now at the age where people are worshiping not just tools, but the permanent state of affairs where tool building is power, right?
Yes.
So you get the worship of power, and the worship of power, whether you call it Baal or Moloch or whatever other, pagan god or Levantine god, it is. And it can be, you could say, the worship of greed, or the bad cardinal, I won't say sins, but the cardinal negatives of being a human being. And so I've had many conversations this month about this, which is, look, on one hand, you have the idea of running away from technology, which works for people. The Amish are amazing. There's a lot of people that try to not do technology.
Try to move toward a hunter-gatherer, communes, stay away
communes
from
and stuff,
modernization.
Yeah, and in New York, the Jews, what do? The hardcore Jews, Sabbath, right? Sabbath originally started as you're not allowed to work. It was communism. You're not allowed to work on the farms one day a week so that people could have a day of rest and not all be competing all the time. And so now, what do the Jews do? It's modern times. You're not allowed to use technology, no lights, it's all family. So I call it Paleo Day. I don't like calling it Sabbath because that's also, religion's a dirty word now, but like paleo, like Paleolithic, like we're getting in touch with our roots. So they have Paleo Day.
Which is a crazy concept that religion is a dirty word.
It is.
There's something there.
Oh yes. There's a lot there. So like the religion, it can be very good when it's done well, but it's humans that mess up religion because it's humans that make things good too. So right now we're in this sort of permanent disruptive period of like technology, and everybody knows it's coming, and not everybody's prepared to be an Amish person. More importantly, we're still living with the sort of legacy reality of what it means to be human, which means we're living in a world with governments. Governments are the lowest common denominator of violence at the highest level. So they're dealing with shit, and they're both a result of and a cause of the feedback loop of violence. Yeah. So we're living with this, and it's easy to react to it. Some people want to join it and be like, I want to be in the military, or I want to be whatever. Or the opposite. You run away and you're like, fuck the government. But in addition to all that, there's a way of thinking where you're like, look, you don't have to react to the thing. And so this analogy is like with technology. If we see technology as evil and the Antichrist, you're reacting to it. If you see it as a tool set where you're like, okay, it can be neutral, but not really, because it's power. So how do you use power for the good? How do you pull a sword from the stone and say, well, this is going to be used for good?
Wait, why would you say power is not neutral?
Power is not neutral because it wants to be used. So it's just like a sword or any other capacity. When you're a strong man or you're a sensitive woman, you use your capacities for strength or for empathy. A mother with large supple breasts is going to be feeding some wonderful children with those breasts. It is a capacity of nature. So when you have power, and it doesn't just start with technology, it starts with really the human body. So like when I was 21, I was in great shape. I went hiking the Appalachian Trail because I could freaking walk all day.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And so I did it. We do what we like. We do what we're good at. So technology is an enabler. So it's not neutral in that sense. It's either going to go left or it's going to go right. It's a fork in the road. So if you go evil with it and just the worship of power, knowingly or not, like the Antichrist comes with, bearing gifts and with half-truths and with a lot of...
Comes with light as well. You can't have darkness without light.
You cannot have darkness without light, exactly. So you take what I'm saying about, like, if you say this thing could be used for the good, and then you tell people, let's start thinking about how to use it for the good and mitigate or minimize the bad, that's good.
But what we tend to see, though, is a trickle-down effect. The titans of the industry are going to lead
Right.
the minions.
Right.
If you look at Google,
Right.
they had that saying, "Don't be evil," and then they remove it. So that shows that there had to be a change in concept, a change in mentality
Right.
in the industry.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that 100%. When they did that, I was just shocked. I was like, they're a public relations expert, and as an attorney, public relations is really important, right? How you're perceived is really important, especially as a corporation. And so, man, it was like, look, this corporation knows it's not good. It can't tell the world I'm going to be good because it's a shareholder corporation. It's based on profit. That's what capitalism is. So, in order to be defensive, they said, don't be evil. Let's at least not be evil. And then when they realized, okay, the world's a little complicated, maybe we want to be evil, so let's stop saying that. I just thought it was shocking that they would change that slogan.
What do you think could be, because like you said, the world is complicated. Let's take that out. Regardless
Yeah.
of if the world is complicated or not,
Yeah.
it still depends on how you want to move in an evil world.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a telltale sign of ultimately what's coming. I mean, I'm hoping that Elon Musk is not a controlled opposition.
Yeah, it feels like he is, doesn't it? I like him, though, even if he is controlled opposition, because they know this Hegelian dialectic game, right? They have one puppet
know what
over
that
here.
is.
So the dialectic game is about you take a story, that's your thesis. You craft the issue or the problem or the reaction, that's your antithesis, right? That's the counter story. That would be like Elon Musk is the opposite of Satya Nadella or whoever else. He's in charge of Microsoft, right?
Okay.
So, or whoever else. Or Sundar Pichai, Google, right? And so you have your antithesis, and then you have your synthesis, the third thing, which brings them both together and like is what you want in the end. So you present one, then you present the opposite, for example, Kamala Harris and Trump, and then maybe there's a synthesis at the end that's something different or some other
A Jill
path.
Stein.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm not saying that will happen, but so Elon Musk may be this controlled opposition, this antithesis to what we normally expect out of essentially tech titans. Elon Musk is a billionaire. He's basically in a class of people that's really different than everybody else, and yet when he talks in front of people and when he's on X and when he's doing his public relations and he's talking to the public, he seems so accessible, so human.
Yeah.
The way, and maybe that's really who he is too.
The way they're trying to redo Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, that's untenable. Like, I don't buy that for a second. Zuck is like putting on a gold chain and he's got the hair now, and you're like, come on.
brilliant.
Who believes this garbage?
A lot of people. I think a lot of people believe it.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's sucker born every day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, with Elon, I don't know. I mean, I like electric stuff. I happen to like him, but he is the sort of he was there for people who, like, during COVID, Twitter was like, at least put on some stuff that was showing the COVID story. So
Yeah.
people kind of gravitated towards the antithesis.
It's like
the
if
thesis
you
was
shows
tough.
us, show us a little bit, which can build our trust.
Exactly.
And by
Yeah.
that point, we've seen so much from the other side that we're like, at least
At
he
least,
showed us
yeah.
something.
The lesser of two evils
The
theory,
lesser of
right?
two
And
evils.
that's why a lot of people, like in Atlanta, a lot of people are voting Trump because they're like, this is enough. America's kind of doomed in a way. We have to go through some pain.
So, okay,
no
so
matter who wins.
What would you think?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever heard of Ray Dalio.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
he pretty much says that every 250 is going to be that clash.
Yes, the fourth turning. Yes.
What does that look like in your mind?
Okay, yeah, that's a big one, man. So there's a lot of people. The fourth turning actually, predicted, by the way, that their timing predicted something happening earlier. So the problem is predicting timing. But insofar as there are cycles, a grand cycle of cycles, a Kondratiev cycle, one of these big cycles comes together and creates some sort of like collision. What does it look in my mind? I'm actually quite optimistic because I was a pessimistic realist, and so I think there's very few things that can really
Come out of this.
that can really fuck the world up. Like nuclear war is really the problem. A massive nuclear war.
Have you read the book, by the way?
Which Ray Dalio's?
No, it was a woman who just wrote a book about nuclear war every single second for like the first 24 hours of what it's going to
What
look
it would
like.
look like. Okay.
Oh, it's
Interesting.
traumatic.
So I read this book called Hiroshima. I think it was by Ken Kesey at a young age, and I studied a little bit about nuclear weapons, nuclear energy as well, and geology, which is you can actually sense underground nuclear testing through geological waves, and this is how they've actually managed to sort of minimize proliferation, because they made this treaty a long time ago with the Soviet Union that said no more above ground testing. Therefore, all testing must happen underground to contain the radioactivity. And then it became a game of how do you find who's testing the nuclear weapons? And it's through geology and through P wave and S wave monitoring. So I love this stuff. I love nuclear.
We're testing nuclear military underground.
Definitely, yeah. And even simulating them in giant simulations. So there's a lot on nuclear. I haven't read that particular book, but I've been influenced by a lot of nuclear stuff.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the thing that scares me is the distraction of fear is always dangerous, right? It's a weapon. It's a tool of psychological operations and warfare. So if you make people
And survival.
and survival, it's a useful tool.
That's
It's a
why
useful
we need
tool. Babies need to be afraid of the street, and when they're not, they should be afraid of being spanked.
Yes.
Because that spanking will save their life, right?
Yeah.
Street's a violent place. They can get hit by car. So the idea is like too much fear mongering is it is a signal that someone might be distracting you from something else. So there's clearly a polycrisis with environmental overusage and devastation, but the narrative of climate crisis, that everything is going to collapse because of CO2, it's overblown almost on purpose, in a sense of distracting us from immediate devastation. We should be very concerned about nuclear warfare. It could happen at any second. And the thing that makes me optimistic is I think it's the geopolitical sort of barons and plutocrats, oligarchs. I think they do sort of have it under control. The Russia war with America seems to be getting more under control. There was a period where I thought, oh
This
shit.
is not looking pretty. This is not looking good for the home team.
For all the teams.
Yeah.
The home team is humanity.
Yeah.
And if this conspiracy of some people figure out how to agitate a nuclear war, regardless of who's at fault, if there's some inner core of like hidden people that are like, yes, we're going to generate this agitation, almost like a crow pecking on two cats' tails to get them to fight. Cats will fight, but sometimes if you agitate them, this is like a parable of the crow that knows how to agitate these cats. Normally a cat would just kill a bird, but you get the two cats to fight.
Instigate
And
it.
all the crow has to do is peck a little here and there. And it's a real thing, this instigation technique, especially if you can hide yourself.
Yeah.
So nuclear war is still the big thing. I think, if we use technology for good, we can avoid any potential crises of the environment. Really, it's us causing the damage. We can stop causing damage, and more or less, nature tends to heal itself. This sort of, they call it escape velocity or critical mass. These theories of the environment going catastrophic, or people doing things that unleash a runaway process, whether with like nuclear, fuel and like all this stuff. We just have to stop doing bad stuff. That's pretty much most of it, and things will be fine.
I'm probably going to butcher the name. It's a philosopher. I think it's called the Tedeschi scale.
Okay,
Where they
yeah.
talk about 3 types of civilizations.
Right.
A type 1 is where you have control of your planet and all the resources. A type 2 means you control your planet, nearby planets, and
Right.
then your closest star. Type 3 is stars and planets, solar systems near you. I would think that
Yeah.
ultimately the bigger game, if the barons, I believe the barons would know each other.
Right.
I can't see the barons really fighting with each other, especially while they're hanging out in the same these environments. So my thought process is what they're really trying to do is get off of this planet.
Interesting.
So
So by the way, this is my sort of mythological thing. I didn't buy this. I traded for it. This is a space Buddha. This is a spaceman astronaut.
That's
and I
hilarious.
wear him. And I don't like jewelry because I grew up with jewelry. So I hate jewelry. To me, jewelry is wearing money. And that's obscene to me. But to me, this is not gold or silver. So I wear it. I love the mythology of space. I don't think all jewelry is obscene. But just it feels weird to me because I grew up with it. I don't judge others. But the mythology of space. So they're trying to escape this planet is what you're saying.
that's my thought process
Yeah.
because ultimately, like you say, nuclear war, we're
Right.
off of here.
Right.
A sun solar flare,
Right.
we're toast. So if you look at just the aspect of us being a species,
Right.
it only makes sense for us to try to continue a species along. That's
Right.
what we do. So I think that the individual pursuit of happiness and liberty is totally not their concern.
Yeah.
Because
We're sheep to them. Yeah.
we're sheep to them, but we're also ants that have lost their way.
Right.
We're all doing something different. We're not moving in a linear perspective. So I think that climate change is totally not on their radar because the goal is to get off this planet anyway.
Yeah, or they're using climate change to distract everyone while they do their thing. So the analogy to space, and I never thought about this, but your way of talking about it made me think about it this way. People who like buy all these underground silos and they make their bunkers, or they move to New Zealand, right? Mark Zuckerberg has his bunker in Hawaii now. It's the same mindset as we need to escape this planet to go to the moon. You're right. This idea of exiting or shielding yourself from what's real and fixing it it's a sort of running away and turning away. And there's ways to think about this issue of how humans want to do this, especially when they have too much money. Sure, go spend your money, do whatever you want. But what about when you don't have too much money? Well, what do people do? They form collectives, they form communes, and the way to escape this craziness is to actually form social groups that take care of each other the best they can. And ultimately, that is our real reservoir of strength in the long run against anything. It's
To
people.
go one level deeper, you said you got to get into these communes that allows people to have this agricultural, pre-agriculture, hunter-gatherer type of mentality. But
Yeah.
I would think that you actually, in order to escape what's potentially coming and find solemn in
Yeah.
this time, is to go internal.
And that too.
Because-
It's not mutually exclusive. You can do both.
Everybody, yes,
Yeah.
have to do both. But even in the idea of don't do evil,
Right.
that just shows that we are currently living in a paradigm that is 100% led by everything that's external of us. Even religion, to an extent, puts God outside of you,
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than saying that you can do internal work
Right.
in order to come to a level of peace and godliness.
Absolutely, yeah.